I got the holy one, I got the holy one. I feel the fever grip when I needed it closer.
What's going on, everybody? This is the Simple Sports Podcast. Coming up on today's show, heading into Week 11 last year, the Tennessee Titans were 6-4 with a chance to be tied with the New England Patriots atop the AFC as the number 1 seed. This was heading into Week 11 last year. Big Thursday night stage, and they would face the Pittsburgh Steelers. At halftime, if I recall correctly, it was a tie game, or the Titans might have been down by 3 or a touchdown. I don't remember exactly. I think it was 14-10 or 14-14, something along those lines. I don't remember exactly. And why bring this all up, right? They will end up getting blown out 40-17, finish the season 9-7 as a wild card, having to go on the road to Kansas City, where they would eventually win, and then New England, where they would eventually get blown out. Well, this year, the Titans started the season 3-1. Even with a hurt quarterback, they lost 3 straight after that, including one to the Bills. I could puke. And another one in which they gave up 11 sacks to a Baltimore team that is good but not great. Then they lost a game to the Chargers, who I'm still not as convinced as others are that they are a really good team. And just when things are about to get out of hand, the Titans rattle off 2 very well-balanced, convincing, dominant wins, one on the road against the Cowboys and one against the likely AFC representative in the Super Bowl this year again. And they're sitting at 5-4, a game behind the division leader, Houston Texans, and a chance to squash the Colts on Sunday. Any chances that they had of climbing back into this race. Fast forward to a week after, and the Texans, who to their credit step right up and keep right on winning games, and the Colts, who blew out said Titans 38-10, as if they actually wanted it more, and they are now third in the division. The Titans are at 5-6, and tonight get a chance to wet the bed all over again on a big solo Monday night stage against their division rival Texans. Good luck with that. If there is one thing you can count on, it's little Ben Roethlisberger throwing a red zone interception to cost you a game. That's right. See the number 1 seed game versus the Pats last year? Last week's versus the Jags. That versus any other team probably would have cost them the game, but it's the Jags. And finally, against the Broncos yesterday, that actually did cost them the game again. Little Ben, ladies and gents. Baker Mayfield was spectacular yesterday, I thought, and after the game told us all how he really felt about Hugh Jackson, saying, quote, "We have people that we believe in calling the plays, and you know what? It feels right to me. I was wrong about Hugh Jackson. I thought going into this situation he could turn Cleveland around, and you can say he helped them turn the corner. I don't think you can argue with that, but he certainly didn't push them any farther than that. I think he got them turned in the right direction, but that was about it. Clearly, the locker room feels differently, or I guess should say feels differently from how I felt. Jason Whitlock of Speak For Yourself a while back tried to tell Hugh Jackson on the show that the ego might need some work. I just think it might be too late for him now back as a coordinator with the Bengals, probably to never be heard from again. Or who knows, maybe he takes over that job after Marvin Lewis probably gets fired this year after this abysmal year. Although we've been saying that for a while too. But first, let me start with the simple stuff. So Lamar Jackson now 2-0, very unimpressively 2-0, but 2-0 nonetheless. He had some good moments, made some good throws, and made some awful ones. To be expected, he is a rookie. That isn't what stood out for me, but what did was how small he is. He, along with Mariota, are noticeably small on screen and on the field. And Mariota's a little bit bigger than Jackson, and Jackson looks like a kicker, honestly. It's the one thing that concerns me given his play style. I'm not one to dismiss the style because you can make it work to some degree, and you can make it do what you need to do depending on the rest of the team to have some success, but whatever. I don't dismiss the style, but you need the body to accompany it, and that ain't it, boss. I watched Todd Bowles early in the game say, you know what, I just stopped Tom Brady and the Patriots after taking the early lead in this game, and I'm going to dare him to beat me from just outside the red zone on a 3rd and 12, as if this is some impossible task for someone who, I don't know, we consider the greatest quarterback of all time. That hot seat in New York is getting hotter and hotter. There is no team I hate more than the Colts in all reality. Sure, I make fun of the Cowboys and the Eagles and other teams all the time, but at the end of the day, I hate the Colts so much, mostly because obviously they're in the same division, and we had to deal with Peyton Manning for, 20 years, and now we get to deal with Andrew Luck for at least another 10 years. But man, you got to tip your hat to not only Andrew Luck, but that organization for competing soon after Andrew Luck's injury, and forget competing soon, which is what it looked like after the 1-5 start this year. They are looking to compete now, and quite frankly, unless tonight goes well for the Titans, well, the only team between the Colts and a first-round home playoff game are the Houston Texans. All right, and that's the simple stuff wrapped up nicely for you. Let's get into the meat of what I want to talk about today, which is our division leaders are as follows. You have the Chiefs, Patriots, Texans, and the Steelers in the AFC, and then you have the Saints, Rams, Bears, and Cowboys in the NFC. And I want to talk about what I think the final playoff picture will look like, given we have about 5 to 6 games, give or take a couple of teams left to play. And the remaining teams in the hunt, I believe, that have a real shot at making it in the AFC, you have the Colts and the Titans, with the Ravens and the Chargers right now having the wild card spots. The Chargers spot is probably locked up and sealed tight, so let's just go with one spot in the AFC, and I think it's down to 3 teams, Colts, Titans, and Ravens. We'll get into that more in just a second. And in the NFC, while I don't think anyone's going to be able to beat the Saints, but as far as the wild card spots go, I think the NFC is actually probably going to stay as it is, with the exception of the Redskins probably getting replaced by the Seahawks. Seahawks are playing some good football right now. We'll get into that in just a second, but let's go back to the AFC. Let's look at the real contenders and pretenders. How do I think this thing is going to shake out, the final 6 teams? Well, here we go. AFC, I'm just going to rattle them off, and then I'll go through each team and tell you what I think is going to be their downfall, their saving grace, or what have you. But then the Chiefs, these are the final 6 I got. The Chiefs, and they're not in any particular order, it's just the final 6. Chiefs, Pats, Steelers, Texans, Titans, and Chargers. And in the NFC, I got the Saints, Rams, Vikings, Cowboys, and Seahawks, and the Chicago Bears. Now, let's start with the AFC. I think the Chiefs will hold on to the number 1 seed, although with one slip, and it will certainly belong to the Pats, who are hot on their heels, and just keep trucking right along, getting win after win, week after week. And by the way, if the Chiefs do slip, not only does that number 1 seed slip, but that MVP may very well slip from Mahomes if it hasn't already. Next up, the Steelers. I haven't bought the Steelers all year, but someone has to win that division, and the Browns got off to a slow start, so they're out of it. Not mathematically, I don't think, but they're out of it nonetheless. And the Bengals have turned right back into the Bengals, and the Ravens just don't have the firepower at the moment, although technically they are in the playoffs right now, but Lamar Jackson is their quarterback, and I just don't know how well that's going to work out here down the stretch. Much like the Steelers, I don't buy the Texans, but you can't deny their record and their position. They have taken advantage of what I think is a very misleading schedule in terms of the wins that they've had recently. They've only got 2 or 3 of those that I really, truly buy into. But again, nonetheless, you can't take that away from them. And as a good football team, that's what you're supposed to do. So for that, I give them credit. The Chargers will inevitably find a way to mess it up. So I don't really buy them. Everybody's blown up about Phillip Rivers yesterday. It was against the Cardinals. Let's all chill out for a minute. Yeah, he lit Arizona Cardinals up. Woohoo. And the Titans are here for one reason only. They have a workable schedule, and no one else aside from the Ravens and Colts do I believe is in real contention for that final spot, meaning the Dolphins or the Bengals, really. And 3 teams, 1 spot, likely will come down to the Colts and Titans, and it may be over before they even meet. A lot of heat on Mariota tonight in Houston, because if they don't get it done tonight, it's over before it even starts. Moving on to the NFC. The Saints, I fully believe, will be meeting New England in the Super Bowl this year. Not much else to say about that, really. The Rams are a good football team. They remind me of the Vikings last year. They are full of A and A-plus names and guys like Gurley and Cooks and Donald and Sue and Aqib Talib and more. but they played like a B to a B minus team every week. And that's good, but that's not going to beat New Orleans. And as it stands, they will have to go to the Dome in New Orleans, which doesn't spell good news for most teams. So miss me with the Vikings and the Cowboys. They'll both make it by default, but we'd be better off if they didn't make it. And the Bears, I really like, man. That defense is for real. And I don't trust the quarterback for a second, but he's in a good system. I underestimated Matt Nagy, but he seems to be a pretty good coach. And he finds ways to get guys open. He just needs to not crash the car, Trubisky. And so I think the Bears will be in good shape. You pack your run game and your defense, and you're good to go. The Seahawks, believe it or not, can be the spoiler in this for a lot of teams in the playoffs. Why? Because they play playoff football. Pack your defense, pack your run game, and if you get into the dance, you can win it. They can do it, and I would not dismiss that at all. I'm not sure if they could keep pace with New Orleans in terms of scoring, but if they can do what they do, which is control the clock and run the football, look out. The Saints have the number one run defense, however, so I get that. But if you ask me today, they'd be the only team I'd give a shot to upset New Orleans on the road solely because of the style of play. Now, obviously, any team could do it any given Sunday and that whole thing, but just looking at styles of play, the Rams, no. Their defense is too porous for me. And like I said, the Seahawks, they play the style of football that you can. The Cowboys too, but I don't buy Dak Prescott, obviously, compared to Russell Wilson. That's a no contest. So I give the Seahawks a shot, but in all reality, I think we're heading straight for a Saints-Pats Super Bowl. All right, what to look for coming up. There is some heat on the seat, which Mariota sits tonight in Houston. Texans atop the division. The Colts, who were far in the rear view, has now passed them. And here they are about to fall back down into mediocrity. Just 2 weeks ago, they're on their way to a division title. How quickly things change, man. This is a must-win for the Titans and a must-have-a-good game for Mariota. He doesn't come up short tonight. He can't come up short tonight. It's a divisional game. Division is still up for grabs, especially with a win. And a division title would also mean a home game. And it could very well be against the same Texans that you're playing tonight. Tonight is a big night. We will see how it all unfolds. But until next time, guys, I just wanted to make a quick short episode today. Got a bunch of stuff I got to get done. Until next time, I will see you all. Peace.
I got the holy one. I got the holy one. I feel the fever grip when I needed it closer. I'm at the field, not quite, but